Hello, so creative, is Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful gown that you are seeing. I made it myself for my client's birthday, and I videoed every details of the sewing and cutting of this beautiful gown. You see how pretty it's looking like this achalu go take me away. So if you like to learn how I cut and put it together, and you would like to recreate it for your brides, you can recreate it and start writing it for your bridal shower. Is looking so pretty. So if you like to learn how I cut and put it together, keep watching and let's get straight into it. This video is the continuation of the drafting and sewing of the corset part. I've already uploaded the drafting part of the corset, and this particular video is for the sewing of the corset. And this is all our pattern. We have already transferred them to fabric, and we have added all our allowances, half inches, and the side I added 1 inch sewing allowance, and every other part I added half inches. So if you want to understand it very well, I will advise you go and watch the drafting part of the corset top before you start watching this sewing part, so that you understand it very well. And let's get straight into the sewing part of it. I'm going to unpin all our pattern and we start joining our pieces together. Like I said earlier, we are using skin tune crepe, and we are going to laminate it with that two nets that you are seeing on the screen. So the first thing we are going to do is to start joining our corset, the front part of our corset. And you can see that I notch all the waist part so that I will know where I want to pin down before I go and sew to my machine. Always notch the important part of your drafting so that you will know the parts you pin, and you will know that they are matching very well. When you notch your waist, your underbust, all these parts that are necessary, you will see that when you are sewing, you will know that all your patterns are aligning so perfectly well. So after pinning it down here, I'm going to move straight to my sewing machine and go and run half-inch sewing inches like we added earlier while transferring our patterns to fabric. I'm going to go ahead and sew it and come back and show you what to do next. For the cup pattern as well, we are going to unpin the pattern and also arrange our cup. We made use of 3-part cup corset, and we are going to also arrange it very well and also pin it down on the floor before we move over to our sewing machine to sew. I like pinning all my patterns down so that when I move over to my sewing machine, it will be so easy for me to sew. I will just be sewing it very straight and accurate. So I'm trying to pin down the down part first. How to sew your 3-part cup: you have to pin down the down part first. After pinning down, you move over to your sewing machine and go and run a stitch on it before you now pin down the upper part. So you have to go and sew the down part before we work on the upper part, and that is how to sew your 3-part corset cup. So we are going to quickly move over to our sewing machine and go and run a stitch on it and come back and show you what to do next. And here I'm already pinning the upper part because I've already sewn the down part. Like I said earlier, you sew the down part first before you sew the upper part. And after sewing the down part, I start pinning down from the middle. Also notch the middle of the upper part and you match it with the middle of the down part, and you go ahead and sew, and our cup is ready. And this is our corset, the one we sewed earlier. The next thing we are going to do is to infuse our bonings. We are going to run a big boning channel. I ran around 10 pieces of boning channel because my client is big and I wanted to snatch her tummy very well. So I ran almost 10 boning channels, and you can see me marking on my boning channels and also making allowances of where our cup will sit. And I'm going to go over and run my boning channel on all these channels that I created, and we are going to make use of 2 double boning channel, which we are going to, after running this regime boning, we are going to insert the plastic boning inside this regime boning. That is how you get your double boning channel. Like all these things are simple, just know the trick. And you can see me infusing the plastic boning inside this regilin boning. That is how you do it, and I'm going to basically do it in all the regilin bonings that we have sewn down. I'm going to infuse all this plastic boning inside it, and after infusing, the next thing I'm going to do is to iron press it so that it will lay flat. So after iron pressing it to lay flat, the next thing I did is to start laminating with this my two net. I cut out the two pieces of this two net, and I cut out the exact shape of it, and the next thing I did is to spin it down to my crepe. I pin it down to my crepe so that I can move over to my sewing machine and go and hold it down by sewing by the side, by the cup and the down part. So that is how I laminated it. I did not use any hemming gum or any other thing. You can go ahead and use your gum if you have gum. I don't have gum presently. When I was working this, that was why I sewed down with my sewing machine and thread. I'm trying to trim out the excess we have on the cup part so that we can infuse our bra cup on the cup part that we have already sewn. So after trimming it out, the next thing we are going to do is to infuse our bra cup. And how to infuse your bra cup: we are going to find the middle center of our bra cup and notch it. So once we notch it, the next thing we are going to do is to start infusing it on our already sewn cover that we sewn for the bra cup. And I'm going to make sure that the place I notch is matching the middle part of our bra cup and also our bra cover. And once I pin down the part, the next part I'm going to start dragging it. The next part I'm going to drag is the one side of the bra cup cover. I want to notch it at the front so I will know what I'm doing. So I'm going to drag one side of the bra cup cover. I will make sure that I leave like half-inch allowance, sewing allowance by the side. Like you have to pin it very well, like keep arranging your cup so that it fits inside the cover that you have already sewn. And the next part I'm going to drag is the side, like I said earlier, and I'm making sure that I leave like half-inch sewing allowance and in every other part. So while dragging, you drag with your sense so that your cup will sit well and also come out well. Like when you drag very well, your cup will sit very well and also be cuppy even without you not sewing any darts on the cup. And after dragging the side, the last part I drag is the upper part to make the cup to relax. You can see how cuppy the cup is in our cup cover. Yeah, that is exactly how you achieve your cup cover. You see me dragging it very gently, like have to exercise patience. Once you drag, you pin it down. Once you drag, you pin it down until you get what you want. You can see our cup is now sitting pretty. What I'm going to do now is to go and run half-inch or sew very close to where we are meant to sew on the cup to hold it down to the cover. So after sewing that part, I'm going to unpin the parts that I've already pinned, and the part I will not unpin is the upper part because we need that upper part. The upper part have not sewn it down. So the next thing we're going to do now is infuse it in our corset space that we created for it. So how I normally infuse is I start from the middle part of my cup to meet the middle part of my corset, and I will start spinning from there, and I pin to the center front and also to the side front. So I've gone ahead to sew my beautiful cup to our corset. This is the outcome. You can see how pretty it's looking, and I'm also going to sew the same thing to the other side of the cup. And I used to sew on that space that the bra cup used to have for sewing. I don't exceed it. I don't sew on the bra cup. I sewed on that tiny space, and I've also gone ahead to sew the second cup, and you can see that they are looking pretty. Is coming out so pretty. The next thing we are going to work now is on the back part. For the back, we don't need to do too much. We are going to just unpin the patterns and start creating our boning lines. I've gone ahead to unpin the patterns and I'm creating my boning lines. The same thing I did on this other side is also what I'm going to do on the other side. So after creating my boning line, like I said, if you want to understand this very well, go and watch the drafting part. We have our eyelet space different we cut out our eyelet space different. I'm basically going to move over to my sewing machine and go and run my boning lines and also infuse my plastic boning and also laminate it with this our 2 nets the same way we did to the front. And I'm basically going to go and do the same thing. So I've gone ahead to do it. You can see my boning and our 2 net is already laminated on the back, and I'm going to infuse the plastic boning on the channels that we have created already. So after working on the back part, we are going to start joining it to the front part and start joining it by the side. So I'm going to lay the back part, the front facing each other, and I'm going to start pinning from the waist. Like I said earlier, always define your waist by notching it. So I'm going to start joining by the waist. You can see me pinning down, and I'm going to basically pin from the waist to the hem part and also to the armhole part. And after pinning this side, I'm also going to do the same thing to the other side. After pinning the both sides, the next thing you are going to do now is to start marking the 1 inches allowance we added by the side when transferring the patterns to fabric. And I'm going to mark from the armpit area to the hem part, and I'm also going to do the same to this other side. And after marking it, I went ahead to sew it, and I'm trying to notch the waist part so that I will give it a little bit of ease when I turn it to the right side. You can see me notching the waist part exactly. That is to define our waist so that we will know where our waistline, and also it will help you to define your waist and give it a little bit of ease. So everything we did on this our men working fabric, we're also going to do it on the lining, so that we are going to use the lining to turn everything that we are working now. But before we turn with the lining, let's work on the yoke. We are going to keep this aside and start working on the yoke. For the yoke, I'm going to start unpinning the patterns, and after unpinning the patterns for the front, I'm going to open it up like so. And we are going to go and sew on the neck part by 1/2 inch, also on the armhole part by 1/2 inch, and that is it for the yoke. And for the back as well, I went ahead to unpin the patterns and also open it up, and we are going to sew on the neck area, on the armhole area, and on the center back of our yoke. That is how you sew this halter yoke. So I'm going to quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and run a stitch and come back and show you the outcome, and let's get straight into it. So I've gone ahead to run a stitch, and I'm going to trim out the excess. Every other parts I'm going to trim out all the excess, and like I said earlier, it's only the armpit area that I sewed. Sorry, I did not sew the neck, because we are going to use turtleneck to turn the neck of our halter neck. So watch me closely and see what I'm doing. I'm also going to trim out the excess we have on the back yoke by the neck side, and also the armpit area, and also the center back side. I'm going to trim it all out. So after trimming it out, I went ahead to turn it to the right side, and this is what it's looking like. After turning it to the right side, make sure that you like space it very well so that you will not have any folding parts. Also make sure you space it and use your pin to hold it down. You can see that it's looking small. So after holding down with my pin, we are going to now introduce our men working fabric and start imputing our yoke. Like I always say, it's very much okay to always work with your office pin. Working with your office pin does not make you a lesser fashion designer or a tailor. So I started pinning from the center front of my corset cup, and I pin from that center part to the armhole part, and I did the same to this other side. And now I'm going to also pin the back as well. From the armpit area, I pin like 1/2 inch away from the armpit area, and I pin it down, and I also do the same to the other back. And after pinning it, I'm going to move over to my sewing machine and go and run a stitch on it. So after running a stitch, we are going to now use this lining and turn every parts together. Like I said earlier, you are going to sew the same thing we did to our men working fabric to the lining, and I'm going to trim out the lining by 1/2 inch, because I want the lining to tuck in our men working fabric in by 1/2 inch. So I reduce the length of my lining by 1/2 inch so that my lining will be shorter than my men working fabric. And I'm going to start pinning from the center of our corset as well, and I pin all over to the back part. After sewing it, I also sewn the hem part as well. You can see it. The next thing we are going to do is to notch the cup area. The part I did not sew is the part that we are going to infuse our eyelet space. So after turning everything, you are going to start trimming or notching the cup area so that to ease the allowances or the stitches we did there, and after which I trim out the excesses. And after trimming out the excesses, the next thing we are going to do now is turn it to the right side and go and iron press.
The next thing we are going to work on is the turtleneck of our halter neck, and I'm going to start cutting from the pieces 2 nets we have. I'm going to fold it into 2, and the width is going to be 1.5 on fold, while the length is going to be 16. After sewing, we'll be left with 15, depending on how broad the shoulder your client is or yourself is. That is how you get the length of your turtleneck. But I like working with 15, 16 because it matches every part of the body. For a slimmer person, I can work with 14, 13. And after cutting it, this is the outcome. And the next thing we are going to do now is to find the middle part of this 2 nets we just cut out. I'm going to notch the middle part, and once I notching the middle part, I'm going to introduce our working fabric. So for our working fabric, I'm also going to notch the middle part of our working fabric. The neck part, the middle part, I'm going to notch it, and once I notch it, this is how I'm going to fix it. So watch closely and see how I fix it. We have 2 ways of fixing it. You can go ahead and just lap it and sew, but I want to tuck in every part inside so that we don't have any rough edges at the side. So I basically went ahead to hem the down part of the 2 nets we just cut out like so. I hem it down, and I'm also going to hem the upper part, like I'm tucking it in between the 2 nets we just cut out. I'm going to start pinning down, and when I hem it, I pin down. When I hem, I pin down. Remember, I started from the center so that every other part will be equal. So after hemming the upper parts, this is how I hem the back side. So from the front, I mark out 2 inches. From this front now, I mark out 2 inches, and from that 2 inches, I start hemming the back as well. The same way we hem, I'll be tucking the neck of the front. You hem the down part and also hem the upper part and pin it down like so. So I also basically going to do the same thing to the other side, and after pinning every part, you are going to go ahead and now run a stitch on it. So this is how you tuck in your turtleneck to your halter neck. This is basically how you do it. Even if you are sewing with Ankara, this is also how you do it. And this part is the part we are going to add our hook that is going to close it together. Remember, we did not add any zip. Like the design we gave it did not warrant any zip or anything, so we are basically going to put hook. And I did the same thing to this other side. Mark out 2 inches and tuck in the neck in between the 2 nets we just cut out, and hem the down part and the other upper part, and also pin it together. And I'm going to move over to my sewing machine and go and sew it and come and show you the outcome. I don't have mic and I live in a very noisy environment. I beg make una bear with me. So after tucking everything in, I went ahead to go and sew it, and this is how it's gonna look after you sew it and after you infuse your hook, bra hook, in between each part. So the next thing we are going to do now is our eyelet space. So this is how you fix your eyelet space. Remember that your eyelet space is always cut on fold. So I'm trying to mark out the center of the eyelet space. So after indicating the center with my chalk, the next thing we are going to do now is to mark the upper part 1/2 inch away and the hem part 1/2 inch away. Remember, we have hemmed the upper part and also hemmed the down part. So we are also going to do the same thing on the eyelet space. We are going to sew on that 1/2 inch away and 1/2 inch away. But before then, we are going to infuse our regilin boning. That is the reason why I mark out the center. And this is how we infuse our regilin boning. You can see what I'm doing there, so watch me closely. I'm going to infuse this number 1 regilin boning and also the number 2 regilin boning. So after infusing it, we are going to now go ahead and join it. So let me quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and infuse the two regilling bonings and come and show you. So I've gone ahead to fuse the two regilling boning. You can see I created a space for where the eyelet will sit, and also I left ½ inches by the side, which you are going to use and join by the main fabric. I'm going to quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and sew that part I marked. So after sewing it, this is how it's gonna be, and we are going to now flip it to the right side. Remember, I did not sew the ½ inches that is going directly inside our main working fabric, and when I turn it to the right side, this is how it's going to be. Yep. So you can now go ahead and now start fixing it. So from the upper part, I'm going to pin it down to the hem part, and after sewing these other parts, I sew the back side first. I sew from the back side, you can see. So for the front, we are going to trim out that excess we have and start flipping, hemming it and top stitching on top of it. And this is the end of our tutorial. If you have watched to this part, thanks for watching, and also don't forget to support us by subscribing, liking, and also commenting. See you in my next